Hey there, thanks for watching. This is going to be an update on my eBay store, how I got started, what's working for me now, what's selling for me now, and my future plans, kind of where I hope to go with this store. And just for some background on me and who I am, I work a full-time 9 to 5, sometimes 8 to 6 job in marketing. This eBay store that I have is just set up on the side. So anything I earn from eBay is additional income. It's my side hustle that I plan to use to build forward any plan and fund any plans that I have. So more on that in the future. The reason I'm sharing this now is because it is so important to have an online presence. I feel like this is something that anyone can learn to do, and it's a great way to make some extra income that could be quite profitable. I just encourage people to start this. And I know when I was starting, it helped me to know how people got to where they were and what their plans were, like what their end game was. So that's why I'm sharing this now. So how I got started. I have always been someone that loves going thrift shopping. Like, I grew up thrifting. We didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid, so my mom, who also has a great eye for a bargain, would take us to thrift stores, and that was like our Saturday morning, was like combing through bins, looking for, you know, those finds that you get where you buy like an Yves Saint Laurent dress for $1, or, you know, we'd get, more often it was like good like tops and pants and stuff that we could get at a good price that was cheaper than a department store, and sometimes even better quality. She also my mom is very unique, and she doesn't love to be to look like everyone else, and the thrift shop was a great place to find those sort of unique items as well. So it was motivated by thrift and being thrifty, sort of frugal, but as well in finding those unique things, so you didn't look like everyone else that got their clothes off the rack. So that's how I grew up, and it was something that's just in me that I like to do. And I was searching on YouTube for thrift hauls because I love seeing what people pick up at the thrift stores and kind of what to be on the lookout for. And I saw that someone had posted a thrift haul that they were planning to resell on eBay, and it was like those two, it was like the light switch went on, and I connected those two to instances of being able to find things for super cheap and then being able to resell them for a profit. So that was that idea kind of, I found that idea and it grew in my mind. So from that point forward, I researched people who were doing this, and I watched what they were doing. So I knew what I was looking for reselling on eBay, and I followed the people who were successful. So that's how I knew that it was possible. So once I had that idea in my mind, I started looking for ways to make this more sustainable, and rather than just being a weekend hobby, I wanted something that I could turn into a legitimate business, which, although this is a side income for me, a side hustle, I am incorporated, which I'll kind of explain and what's happening for me right now. I have a business license. I have a business registration certificate. I have I file taxes, or I would if I sold above a certain amount. I don't at present, but I do have all my papers in order. So back to getting started, I knew that I would need a certain amount of inventory built up in order to reach a certain amount of sell-through, because eBay is very predictable. It runs on an algorithm, and the more items you have listed, the more items you sell, just logically, right? So I knew that I had to get a certain amount of items listed in order to sell. So what kind of motivated me and how I set up a lot of my principles was I took a course called Earn 1K, and the course cost $997, and I challenged myself to earn back the cost of the course within that first month that I was starting. So within the first month of being up and running. So I had the course, and knowing that I needed to have a certain number of items listed and kind of getting my process in place from the people that I watched who had been successful, I had a routine that I had set. And I just started by selling things I had around the house. I spent no money on my initial inventory. And it was mostly clothes. I would say it was maybe 85% clothes. I sold like knickknacks I had around the house. I sold some electronics, I sold some plates, I sold 2 auto harps, which, if you're not familiar, it's a musical instrument that you use, like there are chords written on little buttons, and you push the button and then strum the chord, so it looks like it's like a tabletop guitar kind of thing. So I had 2 of them, and they sold for a decent price. And so I had no idea if I would make this, but I was really determined to make this 1K goal in my first month. And I ended up, it was tight, but I had it visualized in my mind. It would, not only would I earn back that $1,000, but I would earn over and above. So I listed my little butt off. So I would go to work in the day, then I would come home, eat dinner, maybe take like a 5-minute nap, and then I would just list into the night. I could remember pulling all-nighters and just listing things out. At the time, it probably took me, once I had my routine down, it took me maybe 15 minutes. So I could list 4 items in an hour. So it took me a lot of hours to get those 100. I wanted to have 100 items listed. So it took me about 4 hours to get that up and going. And that month I did end up doing $1,000 in sales. So that was the first month that I was started and active on eBay as a seller, and I did $1,000 in sales. So that is just gross. That's not minus cost of goods and fees. So right now my profit's only about 30% of my total sales, which is not the greatest at all. But it helps to know those numbers. So even though I sold $1,000 worth of items, I only made about, I want to say back then it was a little bit more because I didn't have cost of goods. Currently my profit's only 30%. But then that $1,000 minus shipping and fees and whatnot, I think it was a little bit closer. So I did earn back in revenue what I spent on the course. So from that point of view, I feel like the course was really worth it. And what it gave me was a business that still 3-4 years later is generating income. So what's working today? So here's the thing, and I'll explain some pros and cons as well as letting you know what's sold. And if you stay tuned to the end, I will show you screenshots of items that are currently selling for me. Because with zero effort, I am, like almost no effort, let me say, there is some effort, but I sell pretty consistently $200 to $300 worth of items a month. I'm not buying any new inventory. I'm just listing what I have, which I've got a lot of backlogged inventory that I just haven't had the energy or the motivation to list. So that's kind of where I am currently 3 years after starting. I'm a little bit, I'm kind of taking a step back from active listing just because it takes a lot of energy and I'm trying to invest my time and energy in other avenues. So, but even still, with no effort, I am making that $200 to $300. And with, let me say, my costs, having already purchased this inventory already, having already taken that cost in earlier months, I would say that my profit is much closer to, I want to say 70%. So when an item comes in, I'm pretty much guaranteed that those funds are pretty usable. So I'm able to use them for other projects. So currently, what's working? So pros and cons. eBay is a quick sale, and that's why I encourage people who don't have I think everyone should start a store, whether it's eBay, Etsy, Poshmark, whatever. I think everyone should have a means of online income because it is so important, and it's relatively easy once you get over that learning curve. And it just once you learn it, you know it, and you have that income going forward. So the pros are it's quick. It usually, for me, if I list something, and there are different ways you can promote an item, and if you list it competitively, usually it takes between, I'd say on average, 3 to 7 days for an item to sell. Sometimes it sells that same day. Sometimes it'll take a little bit longer. But if an item is in demand, it'll sell very quickly. So that's a pro, the quick income. Another pro is, and what I'm currently using my store for, is to resell personal items that I'm not able to return to someone else who might be looking for them. So I have been both on the receiving end and on the producing end of this. So I have purchased items that someone else has bought and maybe very, very lightly used but couldn't return, and wants to sell the items in like new condition, and I can get it at a savings. They can get something back from an item that they're not using. So it's a win-win. I see it. What I most recently sold, and I'll show you the screenshot, is like a fanny pack, a bum bag, like one of those, like a hands-free pack that I liked, but I didn't, like an everyday carry kind of thing. I liked it, but it didn't necessarily work into my style. So I was able to sell that to someone else for a discount, and so he got a practically new item, and I got to recoup some of the cost of that item that I was no longer using. So those are the two huge pros of having my store. Two of the downsides are that it is very labor intensive to list, and I say this relatively because compared to some other things you could be doing, like manual labor, being on your feet if you're in a retail job, that's intensive, and you have to go there and leave your house. So comparatively, it's not as intense as some other jobs, but for me, I just find that it takes the energy to get myself motivated to list. So that's a negative. And another negative con that I've found is that organization can be very challenging. And I'm someone that likes to have an organized space. I work really hard to keep my space neat and organized and clutter-free. But when it comes to eBay, just because of the sheer amount of inventory I have at different stages of processing, it takes a little bit of, I really have to be strategic in the way that I store my goods, and I have not been of late. So I have big piles down in my basement that aren't the best. They're not the most healthy to look at. So I would like to do something about that. And in order to do something about that, that's where the energy comes in. You have to sort of think about it and be, again, strategic about how you want to arrange those items. So that's something that I have to personally get over. That's just, it's not so much a con as it is just something to be aware of. So when it comes to future plans, this is the part that I'm trying to really put more research and energy into, because if it were just what it is today, me taking pictures of items that I have around the house, clothing items that are selling for maybe $10 to $15 a piece with a profit of maybe $8 to $10, there wouldn't be much motivation in that, because it does take a tremendous amount of energy to list and to keep this up, to ship, to etc. But I have seen people do some really amazing things with eBay. And again, what they did took time, energy, dedication, commitment, but it is possible. So there's one seller that I've kind of been following from afar who had a few eBay stores, I believe, and he was wholesaling items, and so at a huge volume for very low cost. And he managed to take that revenue and or that profit and flip it into purchasing or use that money to buy a rental property. So that would be my big ambitious end game, is to use that to buy something else. I'm also in the process of, just for me personally, and this has been on my 5-year plan and my 7-year plan, to transition to a location independent means of income. So I don't know necessarily that rental property is the way that I want to go, but I know that I want to have something bigger than just an eBay store that sells clothes. So with that idea of expanding this, I took the step to incorporate myself and to get a business registration certificate and tax ID number so that I could apply for wholesale certificate and use that to purchase wholesale lots, which I did at the beginning of last year. And items from those lots are still selling. And it was actually kind of really exciting, and I really enjoyed the process. It was I bought 4 boxes, a lot, and I looked through the manifest to find out what they were, from a local company that I could drive to, because that was important to me. I wanted to have a company supplier that I could physically go to so I could see their operation and see how they did things. So it was just local to me, and I got these 4 big boxes, and I loaded them up in my Toyota Camry, and drove them back. So it was a lot of car parts, which I've mentioned on here before, but if you're new to my channel, it's in my story. So in February, March of 2019, I listed a whole bunch of car parts. And so I purchased a lot of 400 items, and some were junk, some were wonderful. I got like a big, not fan belt, but it was a bunch of AC Delco automotive items. And there were like brake parts and calipers, and there were a lot of different things. But those are selling quite well. I have noticed that sometimes I have to go back and redo listings because eBay will eat up there's an issue with the photos. But so that to say that my end game was to do more wholesaling and to kind of transition away from just being clothing and fashion items, because the profit margin on those is better, and because they're required items, or they're items that are necessary for transportation for life, they tend to have a better sell-through rate and are more popular. So that was my ultimate end game. or that was part of moving toward the end game. And I find that that's still part of what I want to do with eBay. I've just been putting my energy and my time toward other projects. So I'm now kind of taking a look at eBay again, because that interest that it's or that profit that it's generating a month, $200 to $300, it is by no means a high level, high roller kind of income, but it's enough to like help cover overages in groceries or gas. Something that will help give me that cushion in my monthly budget that will keep me from dipping into savings, and by strengthening my savings rate, it allows me to work toward financial independence more consistently. So that is a huge benefit to having my store right now, which is why I'm also kind of paying more attention to eBay currently. Here are some of the items that have sold for me in the past 7 to 10 days. This first item is a Vogue Vintage Very Easy sewing pattern, and I have found that these have sold tremendously well. My mom used to do a lot of sewing, and she has a lot of vintage patterns hanging around the house that she doesn't use anymore. So these are huge sellers, and I've got maybe 300 to 400 of them, and I only have maybe 100 listed, so tremendous potential. If you see these hanging around your house, or if you find these at a garage sale, pick them up. So this one sold for $12.95 with $7.50 shipping, so that was a sweet sale right there. The second item is a maternity skirt. It's a pea in the pod, size small, strapless maternity. It can be worn as a dress or as a skirt, and it sold for $8.95 and with free shipping. So I remember this was an offer that I sent out and was accepted. And I love now that you can send offers to watchers. I find that very helpful, both as a buyer and as a seller. The third item is a Brooks Brothers red fleece women's dress. It sold for $21.95, and again, shipping was free. I have personally found no difference if I include shipping or don't include shipping. They seem to sell pretty evenly. This dress was gorgeous, and it was silk, I think, 100%, or a silk blend. It was just beautiful, and I think I had it listed. I found it at the bins. I had it listed so it cost me less than 50 cents because it was super light, but I'm glad that went for a decent price. The fourth item are some shoes. This espadrille style is very popular. This brand, Kana, I've never heard of them. So they're wedge sandals, size 8 leather, slingbacks, espadrilles. And I've seen them at Marshall's though, so I know that they're still in production. They sold for $23.95 with free shipping. And again, this was a bins find, so they were maybe less than $1. They were under £1. So that was a good find and a good sale. With summer coming, espadrilles are a great style to be on the lookout for. And this fifth item is a blouse that I think I'd had listed again for a while. I want to call this and this had been listed for a long time. It sold for $13.95. Shipping was $7.50. And I think it was just a regular poly blend, but it was it's like a nice office wear type thing, which sometimes I think people now want to feel like they're a little bit more presentable, especially for tops. So this was another good sale. And the sixth item is a bum bag I was talking about. It's by the brand Air, A-E-R, and it's like a sling, a day sling, and I did a lot of research on it, and I finally purchased it. So this is one that I purchased for myself and didn't like, and rather than returning it because it's a small local company, I didn't want to give them the weight of a return, and I had used it, so I just decided to sell it. I bought it for $65 and I sold it for $55. So I feel like that was it was a good deal on both sides. I recouped some of my investment and somebody else got a good deal on basically a like new item. So that's kind of an overview of where I am in my eBay selling career or strategy. And people have been asking, and I'm happy to kind of update you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'd also like to know if you've recently started what's selling for you. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll keep watching.